What's up, guys? Welcome to NFL Kickoff, presented by the Sports 2.0 show. I'm joined by my guest panelists today, Tony Nemeti, Tom Zwiller, and my man, Mitch Martin. How you guys doing?
I'm good.
Doing great. How you doing, Tanner?
I'm doing good. Thursday Night Football was interesting. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, obviously, Tony, Tom, you guys run the Touchdown Rundown podcast. Pipe that in a little bit. We got to hear about it. I'm stoked to listen to your episode today.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football, and then we're gonna go back and review our Week 1 picks. The fact that Tony had the Packers beating the spread, that was, I think, his worst pick of the week. My worst pick of the week was saying Atlanta should beat the Eagles by a comfortable margin at home, and then we're gonna do make some more terrible decisions by picking Week 2 games that I'm sure will age terribly,
horrendously.
There you go. Now, I got a non-football question for you. Your Panthers won this week. I got to talk about the Blue Jays for a minute here. You guys are back in the running, but the wild card runs through Boston. I just want to let you know that.
Yeah, I mean, I read your piece on that too. You talking about them being the favorite, but yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be Boston Yankees. I hope so. Anyways,
I hope
Boston Jays.
Yeah, any combination with Boston, I'm good with that. So before we get into the show, guys, make sure you check out DraftKings. We're working with DraftKings now, so very excited about that $1,000 match. In the description below, use that link. So you put $1,000 in, you get $1,000 in free play. You put $10 in, you're not a high roller, you get $10 in free play. So very good deal with DraftKings, guys. Love working with them. So they're new to the Sports 2.0 network. So pumped about that. All right, let's get into Thursday Night Football. Giants blow up of the century. It was horrendous to watch. It hurt to watch. And I was rooting for the Washington football team, but I wanted to see the Giants win the game after what happened to them. Just that can't happen. Bottom line, it can't happen. So we'll start with whoever wants to jump in. Go for it.
Absolutely. I think it was a great game. It had everything you really wanted. It had drama with the drop passes and the penalties. It had big plays with Heinicke on that one drive where he threw that. It was like a 50-yard dart to the sideline and then an absolute beauty into the end zone. It was absolutely unreal. He was the man of the night for me, other than his really untimely pick at the end that almost cost him the game. He was spot on perfect. He was everything you could ask for in a backup or even a starter in the league right now. But that at the end of that game was insane because I was going for the football team there. So when he missed that field goal at the end, I was really disappointed, but I saw that flag and I knew it was on the Giants. It had to have been. So then they came in, he almost missed it again, but he didn't. They came through with the win. It was very exciting. I loved the game.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. So for me, I said smash the under. Smash the under. Obviously, the game went way over. I also had the Washington football team at -3.5. So at this point, when I knew I was going to lose my bet, I'm like, all right, Giants, just win the game, whatever. Who cares? So that it just wasn't a good night for me betting wise. But anyways, great game to watch. Tom, what did you think of it?
Yeah, so I made the poor mistake of taking the New York Football Giants. It goes against one of my mottos, which is never bet on the New York Giants. And I was so excited when I did see that field goal get missed. I had the exact opposite reaction to Tony. I was like, oh my gosh, they missed the field goal. And then I saw the flag and I was like, oh, they're totally getting this one. But yeah, Heinicke played fantastic. He went 34 for 46. He had 2 touchdowns and the 1 interception that was kind of honestly fluky. I don't think he'd throw that one again in a similar situation. He only took 1 sack, which I found to be really surprising. So I think he just had a really solid performance. And we can get to this a little bit later. But I think Fitzpatrick may have lost his job after this performance from Heinicke. There's no reason to put Fitzpatrick back in or to rush him back from the injury list anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. When Fitzpatrick got named the starter, I was like, we saw playoff Heinicke last year. We want to see playoff Heinicke again. We got to see him yesterday. It was pretty cool. Mitch, what did you think of Heinicke last night?
I thought Heinicke looked good. I thought he was good in the second half. In the first half, he was kind of a bit off. Also, I feel like he had to get intertwined with Terry McLaurin. Once they started rolling, that's when the offense started rolling. Plus Antonio Gibson too. But I thought the Giants imploded on themselves last night. They missed so many opportunities in the red zone. They kicked 5 field goals. If they even turned one of those into a touchdown, it would have been an easy win. And I also think Saquon needs time still. I just don't think he's where he was at 2 years ago. And it seems like he's slowly building himself back up. Last night, it was a step forward from week 1, but I still think Saquon needs some more time for that Giants offense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the thing that really surprised me when I watched the game was Daniel Jones running the football last night. Like that impressed the hell out of me. I mean, it was just two quarterbacks going at it. What'd you guys think of that?
I thought it was really impressive. I was very disappointed by it because I just traded Saquon. I traded for Saquon, so I got him. And then I was checking the box score and I saw that Daniel Jones is the leading rusher, and I was like, "Oh, come on, man! I need this right now. I already lost week 1 because of Dalvin Cook. Don't screw me again with a running back." But I thought it was a really good performance from old Danny.
Yeah. I mean, it was, considering he doesn't have a great offensive line. He's
given the talent around him.
Yeah,
100%.
And
now,
he didn't flip over his feet this week too, so I guess that's a plus.
It's always a plus.
They kept rewinding that highlight like the last time the Giants played on Thursday night, just him tripping. It wasn't good. But when we look at the Giants, they wake up today. How do you think the Giants are feeling this morning? Because granted, they had the penalty. The game doesn't come down to one play, right? But the penalty killed them. But again, that's a chip shot that should be made 99% of the time. So they really got lucky there in general.
Yeah, if I'm the Giants, I'm feeling good waking up. I mean, Washington was the best team in that division last year. They made the playoffs. They gave Tampa Bay a run in the playoffs. If the Giants aren't there yet, so if they can even just stick around with these teams, I can't see why it would be like a negative thing. I mean, obviously they have a lot of things to work on, but I'd probably wake up and think about that positively. Last night's performance, they look decent. So
yeah, I think if I'm the Giants, I'm honestly waking up feeling pretty good about myself because they did have the one touchdown that was brought back on that penalty while they were running it down. I think it was a hold that ended up in a field goal. And then they had just that dropped pass that was going to be a definite touchdown. So, I mean, really, they left, 8 points up on the board that were field goals that should have been touchdowns. So I think if they can clean up their penalty game and they can just get a little bit surer hands there, they're a better team. I think last night overall, if it's just not for some fluky things.
Yeah.
I honestly kind of have to disagree. If I'm the Giants, I'm actually really disappointed in the performance for the reasons that you guys stated, right? That we had the chance to win the game and we just couldn't, if it was, the catch pass or the flag that got the field goal to re-kick. Like, we had the game in the bag and we really needed that game too, because I'm not super high on the Giants. And if they wanted to have a chance to stay in this division, they needed to win this one. Like, there's a case to be made that based on how the Eagles looked against the Falcons, that the Giants are probably the worst team in the division, or at the very least the third best team in the division. So they really needed a game in which, the Washington football team gave them every opportunity to win the game.
Yeah, definitely. I'm totally with you, Tom. If I'm Joe Judge, I'm a Bill Belichick disciple. I'm a Nick Saban disciple, right? And I'm seeing what we did last night, the mistakes we made that cost us the game. I don't care if we competed with the Washington football team, because honestly, Washington hasn't shown me a lot. Like, I know they were supposed to be so good going the season. I know they had Heinicke, whatever, the ruthless front seven. Like, they have not been the team that I think we were expecting them to be after 2 weeks. Now, I know that's early reactions, but the bottom line is you got an opportunity to go and win the game, and you make so many mistakes that you didn't do it. You gave them the game last night. And if I'm the Giants, I'm waking up feeling like shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there's one thing that surprised me was that Washington went 2 for 2 on fourth down conversions. Like, that's something that the New York Giants have to stop. If you want to win the game, you have to stop them and prevent those fourth down conversions, because they were really good at stopping them on third down conversions. The Washington football team went 4 of 13 on third down conversions, but the 2 times they went for it on fourth down, they were able to extend drives and add points. That is also something that really hurt Washington. Hurt New York.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what do you guys think we're going to get from Washington this year? I mean, you look at the Cowboys look good in the division, obviously, right now. Is Washington going to be there at the end of the season?
I think you'll get another 500 record from Washington this season. It just seems like they're mediocre. I think they still need that next level quarterback to take them to the next level, but they'll be in it. That division is terrible, so they'll be in it right down to the wire if the Cowboys don't run away with it.
Yeah, I think they'll stay in it. I do not think they're going to beat the Cowboys by any means, but they just kind of, like you said, Tanner, they're kind of been underwhelming from what we expected from them this year. They were supposed to be, have a really, really elite defense, and we just haven't really seen that so far from them. I don't know if that's early, kind of getting back into it, getting the chemistry back on it, but I haven't really seen what I expected to from them. So I think they'll be in it, but I don't think they win this division, maybe second.
Yeah, I want to echo what Tony said. I am not at all impressed by Washington's defense this far. I feel like I came into the season expecting a lot more out of them, and they've really disappointed. Granted, they played against Justin Herbert, and I think he was the best rookie of his draft class. I think he's going to make the Chargers a very good football team for a very long time. But they gave up almost 150 yards to rushing yards to the New York Giants. And you're supposed to have one of the most competitive front four, if not front seven, in the National Football League behind Tampa Bay. I really don't understand why they're giving up so many rushing yards, why they're giving up so many passing yards, and the fact that they, really they didn't do their job last night. They allowed the New York Giants, who I don't think are an offensive juggernaut, to score almost 30 points on them. So I'm worried about them, and I think that they could, because you can't finish 500 this year with the 17th game added on. So I think it's reasonable to think they might finish below 500, but because this division is so bad, that could earn you a second or third finish in the division.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing with the rushing attack last night, I mean, Daniel Jones, like you said, a leading rusher, right? And Saquon's not healthy, and they still ran all over him. So that's just not a good sign if I'm the Washington football team by any means, really. Any other reactions Thursday Night Football before we move on? Awesome.
I was impressed by Daniel Jones rushing, but that's about it. Like I'm worried about him as a passer, but I do think he at least was good rushing, and I'd like to see him improve if he can maintain the rushing and improve his passing game a little bit. I think he may earn himself that fifth-year option.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, he's a guy that you can build around. He's kind of like an Eli Manning in New York. It's I've always thought of him like that. Like just kind of bland, nothing there. Even though Eli and Peyton are like the funniest guys in the world now on ESPN. I don't know.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
That was cool, yeah. But Eli, when he was playing, he was just kind of, just bland Eli, but now he's hilarious. Anyways, we got to talk about the Washington football team names real quick. So, Tom, you got the list. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I do. So these are the finalists list. So it's Armada, the Brigade, the Commanders, the Defenders, the Presidents, the Red Hogs, the Red Wolves, and then last but not least, the Washington football team. So they're potentially going to keep Washington football team as their official name.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm all in on the Presidents just because you're in Washington. Go with something related to Washington. We'll go around. I mean, I already know what you got. We talked before the show, obviously, but let's hear if you guys had to pick one name for this team moving forward for the next 100 years, what's it going to be?
I like the sound of the Red Hogs. I don't know. It sounds like they're getting dirty on defense. They're really getting down and gritty. I like the Red Hogs. I'd definitely get a Washington Red Hogs jersey if I had a big old hog on the front.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Presidents. I got to go with you, Tanner. It just seems like a very fitting name for them. It's original. It's better than anything I thought they'd come up with, and I like it.
Awesome.
I like Washington football team just because I just like it. It's grown on me. Everybody made fun of it when it was first announced, but I just like it. It's grown on me. I think maybe it's not the most original, and if I had to pick one of the new options, I think I'd go Armada because I think you could do a lot of cool stuff, like your helmets could have ships on them. I could really see a cool logo being made from that.
Yeah, so we were talking before, obviously. I'm like, I hate Washington football team so much because when I'm writing about them, I don't know if they're the football team or the Washington because I'll call another team a team when I'm right. It's just a headache for me. So I just always call them Washington. I need them to get a legit name. All right, so let's keep going here. Bounce back week. All right, so Atlanta had a rough week. I don't think Atlanta's going to be very good because I don't think the Eagles are very good, and they blew them off the field. Green Bay, Tony, I know that's your team, man. They had a rough week.
That was not good.
Tennessee had a really rough week as well. At least that game went over. I had the over there, so I was pumped that Kyler Murray picked up to play football. When we look at this, I mean, out of these three teams, who's going to bounce back this week?
I got to take my Green Bay Packers. Not necessarily because I think that, they're a lock to become the Super Bowl team that they're meant to be now. I just think that Atlanta has no shot of really winning this week based on how they were last week. And Tennessee is just not going to be able to really pull anything off against the Seahawks. Tom and I kind of have a running joke on our show that Russell Wilson is the greatest quarterback in the world through the first 6 or 7 weeks. And up until that point, the Seahawks are very good. And after that, they always fall off. So because Tennessee's going against the week 2 Russell Wilson Seahawks, they're going to lose that one. And Green Bay's going against the Lions at Lambeau. I don't really think that there's a way that unless Jared Goff really is somehow meshing way better with the Lions than he ever did with the Rams, that there's no way that they're going to be able to pull off a win against the Packers here. Rodgers is going to be ticked off now. And when he's ticked off, he always plays lights out.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is kind of the obvious pick here just because they're facing a Lions team that isn't very good, unfortunately, for Lions fans. But also, I don't really see Tennessee really being the team that they were last year. Derrick Henry, he's always so slow out of the gates. He's always such he'll pick it up at the end of the season, but at the beginning of the year, he's only rushing for 60 yards. He's getting stuffed at the line. It seems like he needs to get his legs under him still. So I don't think Tennessee really is that team this week. But yeah, Green Bay easily, just because they're facing in Lambeau, they're facing the Lions. That's the ultimate bounce back week for Rodgers.
Yeah, so I agree with the rest of the panel. There's no reason to pick Atlanta. Atlanta is going to painfully lose to Tampa Bay. I actually wrote a column about this for USA Wager, and it basically was the spread may be at 12.5, but expect Tampa Bay to beat it. I also had the over hitting because the only way Atlanta can be mildly competitive is if their offense bounces back. And I don't see Atlanta recovering at all. Now, I am going to differ in that I think Tennessee actually has the best chance of recovering because I don't really believe in the Seattle defense as much as I do. I just don't think they're that good. I think that Tennessee is going to be able to bounce back. They should be able to run the ball. I think Tannehill is going to be able to pass it. And I think that's going to be a really high-scoring game that allows Tennessee to kind of get back into a groove. I do think that the Packers are the most likely to win, but in terms of bounce back, I think Tennessee has the harder competition, but I also think that's the one where they can prove themselves the most.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Now, I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Tony, I know this is probably going to be an interesting topic for you, but we're talking before the show, and the pass that stood out to me, I did not watch the Packers game in full. I watched the highlights, but when it was third down, they were backed up, and he just threw the ball. And I know it's kind of like a punt, but literally threw it to nobody. It was a frustration play. That's not Aaron Rodgers. So that kind of tells me this dude doesn't want to be in Green Bay. He's sick of Green Bay. Obviously, we know he wants out. He wants to go host Jeopardy, like we were saying, ever since he started dating the girl from The Secret Life of the American Teenager, ever since he got married to her. It's done. He's been done. I think he does bounce back. I think he's going to play well this season. But again, is that undertone in his head? I don't really want to be in Green Bay. Is that going to affect him? Tony, we got to start with you. Obviously, you're the Packers fan.
I know that he's always throughout his career said he really wants to end his career as a Packer. Obviously, it's gotten rough this past year, and with Love actually looking pretty decent, unless Rodgers really puts up a clinic this year, I don't think he's going to win MVP again. But they could trade him and still get a lot out of him. Of course, he's going to be worth so much, even if he kind of bombs out this year. But I think that play in particular, I don't think he didn't care so much. Throughout that whole game, he looked like he wasn't really on his game. I think he just kind of chucked under it too much. He's made that throw a million times before into double coverage where he'll somehow get it through. But I did watch that play, and that was dead perfect to the safety there. It would hit him in stride. So I don't know if he didn't care so much, if he just got under it too much, if he was having a bad day, it was too hot or whatever. That team never does well in the heat. But I think I do see Rodgers making a comeback later into the season. We were kind of talking beforehand about the last time in the opener Rodgers threw two picks was the 2010 Super Bowl year. So I'm not too worried about it. I think he could definitely come back. And I think this week has been a very, if you jump back to a couple years ago, a very, RELAX, relax kind of vibe. And he's been telling everybody, if we panic after one game, this team has no shot of being good. So we'll bounce back and it'll be fine.
Yeah, totally agree with that. What do you guys think?
I think maybe the holdout had something to do with it. Maybe that's why he's getting off to a slow start. Maybe he's starting to finally feel the ramifications of not being at training camp on time, kind of not really knowing what team he's going to play for until the start of the season. So maybe it's just the layover from that. He kind of came out sloppy in game one. But Aaron Rodgers we've seen time and time again, he's going to bounce back, and he's going to be that quarterback that leads you to the playoffs easily. So I don't really see him having too many more issues from here on out.
One thing I did want to note is that Rodgers actually, so last season he had a pressure rate of about 14.2%. That's according to Football Reference. In the last game, it was almost 30%. So he was really under duress. So I do think that bad performance was, I think the O-line in Green Bay may actually be a deeper problem. I know they traded off a few pieces. I know, I believe Corey Linsley went to the LA Chargers. He was their center, so they've really changed how their O-line is playing and structured. So that may be, to Mitch's point, they may need more time to kind of let that O-line mesh against a Saints defense that will probably continue to be pretty good. And I think that, Rodgers probably does need time, but I also think that O-line is probably the bigger problem. If you have, a minimal amount of time in the pocket, then you probably aren't going to have a lot of good plays. And I don't think Rodgers had as much time in the pocket as he would like to have or is used to having with the great offensive line he's had the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line, this is the NFL, right? They're all NFL quarterbacks. So you could stick a number 3 behind a phenomenal offensive line. If he has all day to throw, he's going to pick defenses apart because it is the NFL. Also, David Bakhtiari did not play last week. Huge leader on that offensive line for sure. He's gonna clean things up in there. So, like you said, it's a great point. Rodgers needs time. All quarterbacks need time. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean, you can't win without a great offensive line.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking of more quarterbacks, got our rookies. We got first taste of Trevor Lawrence this weekend. I thought the Jags would cover. Boy, was I wrong. I was wrong. How were they favorites? Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
How were the Jaguars favorites?
I took them as my survivor pick this week. I was all in on the Jags week 1.
Really? I know Tom and I both took Texans by a pretty hefty margin when we were doing our show last week.
We took them to beat the spread.
Damn. That's a good call, but I thought the Texans were just not going to be good at all this year. Like, considering all their offseason problems, like, it doesn't even seem like they're a team, really, but I guess they are. So I was dead wrong.
Yeah, we kind of said that it was just going to be a dumpster fire game. Like, both teams are going to be really bad, but I think it's Tyrod Taylor that's the starter for the Texans. I think he deserves more respect than he gets. I think he's an undervalued kind of quarterback, and I've been kind of calling it since the beginning. I see Trevor Lawrence as a bit of a bust here. I'm not on the Trevor Lawrence hype train. I've been calling it every time. So I don't want to say this was a bust performance, but I do think that he threw 3 touchdowns, like 300 plus yards against a bad secondary, but he also threw 3 picks against a bad secondary. So I think this is a very B minus performance from him. While Tyrod Taylor looked comfortable, he looked like he knew what he was doing. The Texans looked like they had their stuff together way more than we thought they would. So I don't know how the Jags were favorites here. I was very surprised to see that, but I was going to take the Texans from day one anyways.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised to see Jaguars as favorites, obviously, because the Texans were the home team, which Vegas is basically saying Jacksonville would have been probably a 6 or 7 point favorite at home, which is kind of astounding. But I think what happens is that the Jaguars are favorites because everyone forgot that Tyrod Taylor is not actually a horrible quarterback. The only reason he didn't play for that LA Chargers team was because, a doctor poked a hole in his lung. He could have been the starter for the Chargers. He evidently appeared to have at least beat out Justin Herbert in training camp for the starting job. So I think that the Texans probably are going to be a lot better than we all thought they were going to be. And the reason Tony and I had both taken the Texans to win was because I'm not on the Lawrence bust camp. That is Tony's lane. That is 100% Tony. He can have that, and he can die on that hill. I picked it because Trevor's a rookie. It's his first pro game on the road, so that's kind of why I thought he'd have a lot of turnovers and not a whole lot of touchdowns. And I was sort of right, but I mean he did end up having more touchdowns than I thought he was going to be. So I think it's a combination of Tyrod Taylor. We forgot that he's actually an NFL starting caliber quarterback, and that Lawrence is just a rookie and he's not the savior of every franchise.
Also, anytime you ask your rookie quarterback to go out and throw 51 times in a game, that is never a good recipe for success. I mean, they have to establish some sort of run game behind him to mix things up. Like Trevor Lawrence was just dropping back and throwing like Matt Ryan from 2 years ago. Just throw.
Yep.
So that's never a good recipe.
And I mean, I'll challenge that. I mean, I'm going to agree with you, but you even look at a Josh Allen, who's supposedly going to be an MVP this year. He threw the ball 50 times on Sunday. You need a run game to win. No matter if you got Tom Brady back there, you got, or Trevor Lawrence or any of the quarterbacks in the NFL, right? So it's that's not a good strategy. They got to come out. They got to run the football, especially with a rookie quarterback. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust. I'd like to know why you think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust. Like the greatest quarterback prospect ever to step on an NFL football field.
Because there's always one guy every single year that's going to be the end-all, be-all, and he almost never is. And it's kind of like Clemson's kind of becoming like my Alabama, where I just don't trust quarterbacks from there anymore because they have so much talent around them. I don't know if it's the team doing well or him doing well. Now, obviously, this past week was his first regular season loss since high school. So, he's been very, very successful in high school and college. But I'm also, this is kind of a hot take, I'm not a very big fan of college football. And just the difference, the transfer from going from a college quarterback to an NFL quarterback, it's such a large jump that you have to get so fast. A lot of guys just can't do it. And I don't think Trevor can't do it. I just think that, going from being on such good teams to suddenly going on to arguably the worst team in the NFL. I mean, they had the number one pick for a reason. And he doesn't know how to lose almost. It's just going to be a big mental obstacle for him to get over, to go from being on such a good team to such a bad team. And I think it's going to take a long time for him to kind of get through that. And it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. And I also just don't think it's also kind of like a Jets situation with Darnold. If you're surrounded by trash, you're going to smell like trash. So yeah.
No, I agree. I don't mind that at all. I just think some of the throws the kid can make, it's insane, obviously. But like you said, he's gonna lose a lot this year. That's just gonna be the way it is. So he definitely can make throws. It's just
that window from college. Your window to throw in college is here. In the NFL, it's here. It's just, can he be that much more accurate?
Yeah, and I think too, we look at a guy like Mac Jones here. Mac's obviously accurate as hell, right? But doesn't have the arm. Now, do you guys think a Mac Jones kind of player in New England is going to be more successful than a Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville until Trevor
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I actually did a column for Football Takes that kind of detailed the performances of all the rookies in their debut. And I gave Mac Jones an A, but I also noted he has an incredible talent around him that he's arguably in the best setup. I would say Trey Lance is also in a really good setup that's good for his play style, but Mac Jones is just in a scheme that fits him where he's not being asked to throw the ball 50 times. To the point that was made earlier, Jacksonville doesn't have a run game. They really didn't in that game. James Robinson, who was a breakout star for them last year, he had 5 rushing attempts for 25 yards. Carlos Hyde had 9 attempts for 44 yards. That's it. So they really need to get a rushing game. I think Mac is just better supported. So I think he's going to have the easier season. Yeah,
100% agree with that. I thought Mac Jones looked really well. Now, really good. I am a Patriots fan, so we got to factor that into the equation. But he did exactly what the Patriots team do. Quick game, play action, just be efficient. He still hasn't thrown a pick. You look at he has not thrown a pick in the preseason or week 1 regular season. That's pretty good. If you're going to take care of the football, it's like a Tom Brady mentality. If I don't have anything, I'm going to take a sack. I'm not going to make mistakes, and I'm going to give myself a chance to win on the next drive. So I was very pleased with Mac Jones. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he looked pretty accurate. Yeah. And he would have won that game if it wasn't for that Damian Harris fumble at the end of the game. So yeah. I think you could easily give him an A on the week. He was so accurate. I didn't see him really misread any throws, but also he didn't wow me with any athletic plays that maybe Trevor Lawrence might have made. But I still think Mac Jones is the solid, perfect quarterback for Bill Belichick. He just kind of looks like Tom Brady a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, I 100% agree. I do want to say that although he did look really, really good, and it was against a really, really solid defense in the Dolphins. Of course, they have a really, really great secondary. They had so many turnovers last year. To go as a rookie against that kind of a defense, that's really impressive to not have any turnovers. But I will say that knowing the Patriots kind of system, the only reason I wouldn't give Mac an A+ and I would give him an A is because a lot of those throws are going to be very Tom Brady-esque. They're going to be very easy. They're going to be checkdowns. They're not going to be that difficult. And obviously, it's not a good idea to have your quarterback come out as a rookie and throw kind of deep passes, especially against this great secondary. But I also can't give him all the credit in the world when he's throwing these easy passes that really any of these guys, any NFL quarterback can throw, and letting his receiver do a lot of the work. So I'll give him an A, but I won't give him an A+.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I want to see him get better. I want to see him put a little more trust in him in the coming weeks. But out the first weekend, off a guy that nobody expected to be in the first round, starting last year's college football season to where he is now, I was super impressed with him. Tom, would you put in the USA Wager piece or the Football Takes piece?
Yeah, so I had Mac as an A. I had originally thought of giving him an A+ because I'll read you some statistics in a second. But the reason I didn't was because Tony and I were talking, and as Tony said earlier, it's the Patriots system. It's a little bit of that dink and dunk offense, which, in my opinion, I was like, I don't really mind. If my guy didn't turn over the ball, why wouldn't I give him an A+? It's also his first outing. I'm not going to ask him to do a lot. But to Tony's point, his intended air yards per pass attempt were just 6.3. So that means that every single target he did averaged about 6 yards. So it's not, like Tony said, it's not a particularly, it's not a 20-yard bomb like Lawrence was doing, where Lawrence had some really deep targets. But what made me really impressed by Mac and why I think he's going to be so good is that his on-target percentage was 90%. So he only had, by Football References index, 2 poor throw attempts. Otherwise, he was pretty much perfect. He did have a couple of drops, hence why his on-target percentage is greater than his completion percentage, which was about 75%. So if I'm a Patriot fan, I'm thrilled with what I saw. And, I think the Patriots should be happy in that Mac Jones looks better than Tua did, who played him last week. And Tua is a year into the league. So, right now, between Mac and Tua, I might be inclined to take Mac.
Yeah, I mean, between all of them, between Tua, Mac, and Jalen Hurts, I'm going with Mac Jones for the best long-term career. I just think he fits it. I don't think Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a bust. They didn't want to start Jalen Hurts this year. They had no choice but to start Jalen Hurts almost. I mean, what do you guys think out of those 3 dudes? Who's going to be the best?
I don't know. That's a tough one, and I don't want to say that I want to take Mac Jones as the best quarterback because Mac Jones is on the best team. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is not on a team of the caliber that Mac Jones is on. The Patriots are obviously light years better than the Eagles are. But I do kind of like Jalen Hurts. I think if you put Jalen Hurts on the Patriots, it's not a good fit because Jalen Hurts seems like he can throw a little bit of a deeper ball, whereas Mac Jones is very comfortable in the dink and dunk offense. So I think if you take Jalen Hurts and you put him on a good team that throws a little bit deeper, I think Jalen Hurts might excel slightly more than Mac Jones would. But as of right now, on their current teams, I got to take Mac Jones. I mean, Belichick, the great team, you just have to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, current teams, I'm definitely taking Mac Jones. It's also what's in between the ears for Mac Jones. I think he's easily the smartest football player out of all 3 of those quarterbacks. But who do I think has the best potential? It's definitely Jalen Hurts. I just think he's really good at running. He's a really good rusher, and he's a pretty good. You seen that pass to Devontae Smith last week. He's pretty good at throwing when he wants to be. Last year, he kind of had a couple up games, couple down games. I remember watching a game versus him in Arizona, and he was going back and forth with Tyler. So I think Jalen Hurts has the highest potential, but yeah, as of right now, Mac Jones is the safest, best pick out of those 3.
Yeah, I'm not going to add anything to that. I agree. If all things were equal, maybe it's a little bit different, but current team with current quarterback, Mac Jones.
Yeah. Now, I think out of the rookie quarterbacks, the biggest storyline is that Matt Nagy is crazy for going with the red rocket at quarterback. I think this is the stupidest thing ever. Matt Nagy's not going to have a job next year. It's at least if you put Justin Fields back there, you can say, all right, well, if we lose, we have a rookie quarterback. I don't know why Justin Fields is not starting quarterback. He came in, had the touchdown run, obviously. But this is just preposterous to me. What do you guys think?
I'm actually going to somewhat disagree with you on this one. Only because it was against the Rams. If I have my rookie quarterback, I don't want his his very first start in the NFL to be against a defense of that caliber where I think everybody knows that the Bears are going to get rolled in this game. I would, especially with Aaron Donald on the D-line up there, I don't want my rookie quarterback to get killed in his very first start. I would rather throw Andy Dalton out there and let him take a little bit of a beating and then kind of slowly get Fields out there a couple weeks into the season when they're playing a little bit of a lighter load of a defense and see if it's an actual winnable game. Because I think everybody can agree this is not a winnable game for the Bears. There was just no shot. So as much as I agree, Andy Dalton is not your answer, I think he was your answer for this game where you're going to lose.
You guys see Nagy came out with a quote. He was like, yeah, I'm sticking with Dalton.
Oh, no, I did not. I had assumed that since they're playing the Bengals, this would kind of be the week, to Tony's point, to bring in Fields. This is a defense I feel comfortable having against.
He might bring him in, but I believe from what I've seen, Dalton's getting the start. But I could be wrong.
Well, that's dumb. At that point, I would agree with you. That's just not a good idea anymore. Dalton has shown for years now that he is not your long-term answer, and you have a guy that might be your long-term answer. Why not start him against a defense like the Bengals? Especially because that'd be kind of a fire game if he pops off, him and Joe Burrow going back at it. That'd make for really good TV.
Yeah.
When do you think? What week do you think they finally put in Fields? I
don't know.
It's inevitable they say he's gonna be the starter at some point, but
Yeah.
What week do they finally pull the cord on Dalton and they're like, all right, like Fields, you're the guy now?
I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Probably, I imagine it'd be week 2. I'm reading an article right now how short is the quarterback Andy Dalton's leash heading into week 2. So he is going to get the start. It's just when are we going to bring in Justin Fields?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, it would depend on how he does. Maybe Dalton pops off and really kills it against the Bengals. Then, of course, at that point, he's going to have earned himself at least as a starter into week 3. If he does really, really bad and like they pull him at halftime, you got to start thinking like even the worst head coach in the league has to know that if your quarterback sucks for 2 games in a row, especially against a pretty bad defense in the Bengals, you got to start your guy at some point. You can't let him rest for, a super long amount of time, especially when Nagy is on the hot seat. He's been on the hot seat for like a year plus now. So he's got to do something to hopefully like try and save his job or something. And Fields could be your guy. So why wouldn't you start him?
yeah, I 100% agree with that. What do you
Just looking at the schedule, I think that Dalton may play through week 3 because it's obviously we had Bears Rams, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. Let Dalton have that start. The veteran quarterback probably knows how to deal with that a little bit more. He's better than the rookie. The Bengals Bears feels like a good at least bounce back game for Dalton, and then you play the Bears play at the Browns. I don't want Fields to play at the Browns because I think the Browns are going to have a really good defense. They should have a good pass rush. I think their secondary is probably going to be pretty good. So I would actually start him week 4 because you'll play the Lions at home. Should be a pretty good game for him to start. It's not a very good defense. Then you play the Raiders on the road, but the Raiders, I don't think they're going to have a good defense. And then you play the Packers, and we saw their defense kind of get exposed by the Saints. I don't think that the Bears have the same caliber of offense necessarily as the Saints, but I think that shows that, hey, you're at home versus the Packers. Maybe this is, a good 3-week stretch to get kind of used to it. And then you go straight into the fire of playing Buccaneers, 49ers, Steelers. So, it's kind of like a little bit of preparation for the gauntlet there.
Yeah, definitely. Now, another rookie quarterback storyline, obviously, Trey Lance versus Jimmy G. I don't mind Trey Lance being on the bench right now a little bit, just because Jimmy G he's reputable at least, and Trey Lance did not play a lot of college football when we really look at it over the past few years. So I was good with Jimmy G getting most of the start. Trey Lance came in through one pass, obviously. But what do you guys think of this decision by San Francisco?
I think it's a good decision by them just because last year going into the draft, Trey Lance was the untouched kind of – he was the diamond in the rough that hasn't exactly kind of been groomed into an NFL quarterback just yet. He didn't really play much college football. He didn't have much experience. So he was always going to need a little bit of extra time just to get his feet under him. And I think you're behind one of the best teams in the league, one of the best coaches. Jimmy Garoppolo's been to the Super Bowl, so he has some experience that he can bestow onto Trey Lance. So I think it's a good decision by the Niners. I think you sit him this whole year, and then next year you give Trey Lance the keys to the car.
I kind of like the decision as well. I think you start Jimmy G and you just slowly kind of do what they did. Like if you're ahead by, 2 or 3 touchdowns, let Lance go in for a drive and just kind of see how he does. Let him somewhat get used to it, but you shouldn't start him at all this year. I do like the idea of starting Jimmy G and then letting Trey Lance come in next year. But definitely throw him a couple drives here and there and just really slowly get him acclimated to it. That's the best way this guy's going to succeed.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna be the third one to agree. I really like the move. I kind of have comped it to Andy Reid keeping Patrick Mahomes on the bench behind for his rookie year. It just made sense. Like, let him get better, let him improve, because one of the problems that people said with Lance is, we're not super sure about his accuracy. And sure enough, in the preseason, he had a 46% completion percentage on about 41 attempts. So that's not great. So let him sit behind a solid, respectable quarterback in Jimmy G. Let the 49ers try and win it this year because, just a year ago, we're talking about the 49ers being in the Super Bowl. And the only reason they were bad last year was because of injury. So I see no reason to rush him in. Let him learn and let him grow behind Jimmy G. And then if you really think that he's good, or odds are kind of good that Jimmy G is going to get injured again, then you can bring him in. Don't rush it.
Yeah, I mean, they have a good system there with Jimmy G. Let him learn from him. Let him go back in when he's ready. Zach Wilson, though, is doomed, I think, in New York. He has no chance of doing anything. I think New York just kills quarterbacks. Wilson, he didn't look bad. I mean, obviously, you two can speak to this a little more because you're Panthers fans. I did watch this game, but yeah, I don't think Wilson looked that bad, but also he just has no help, and I don't think he's going to have help there in the long term.
Yeah, it took him a good quarter to kind of like settle down. At the beginning of the game, he was missing a lot of throws, and then the second half, he looked really good. I think he's a good quarterback, but yeah, he's just doomed in New York. It seems like New York just can't produce anything, let alone a good quarterback or groom him to be a better one. But he did look good. He didn't look bad whatsoever. Like I thought he made some good throws on the run. Him and Corey Davis had really good chemistry throughout the game. But it's the Jets. That's what it sucks for Zach Wilson. If he went to the Bears, I think he would have been in a way better situation than he is with the Jets. But
that is kind of the mantra for all quarterbacks that go there. It's like, it's the Jets. What are you going to do? Like, no matter what kind of quarterback, you could put Mahomes on the Jets. I don't think they're a playoff team even, just because obviously Mahomes is generational, could go down as the GOAT. But no matter how good your quarterback is, if the rest of your team is that bad, there's nothing you can really do about it. And it's kind of like what we're seeing with Darnold. You give Darnold even just a little bit of talent. Like the Panthers are a somewhat decent team. They're not great, but even if you give him just a little bit of talent, he's doing a lot better than he ever did in New York. So I don't know if this is really like Zach Wilson's good or bad. I don't think we're going to know that until we get him some talent.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I never got why Wilson was the second pick overall. I genuinely think Justin Fields was the second best quarterback in the draft. And I felt really justified watching that first half of football. Wilson went 6 for 16. He only, that was 6 completions for 84 yards, and he threw an interception. And that, to me, I was like, yeah, he's going to be bad. He's going to be bad because he wasn't, worthy of the second overall pick, and he's surrounded by a terrible team. But he did end up showing some promise, so I may be wrong on Zach Wilson not being the second best pick, because if he can make that work, good for him. I don't think that we're going to see another good performance out of him, though, because the Panthers' defense is not actually all that great. We're up and coming, but we're not all the way there yet, and he played pretty poorly against us. If he's playing the Patriots, I expect to see multiple turnovers out of him against the Patriots, where that's a really good defense.
Yeah. Hey, we can only hope. We'll find out on Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
So week 2 thoughts. I mean, give me one storyline you guys are looking forward to this weekend before we wrap up here. For me, at least, it's the Patriots and the Jets. I want to see Mac Jones come out and be efficient again in week 2, and I want to see them go get their first win and get his first win as starting quarterback. But we can start with Tony here. Tony, I imagine you want to see the Green Bay Packers get a win.
I would love to see the Green Bay Packers get a win. I think a very interesting game we're going to be looking at is actually going to be Rams at Colts. And I say that because looking at the injury report for the Colts here, most of Carson Wentz's O-line is injured in some form. They might not be out, but they're hurt. You put an injured O-line against Aaron Donald and an injury-prone Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz might not make it past the first quarter here. He's going to get hit probably 6 or 7 times, and it's just going to be as much. The Colts are a much better team than the Bears, so this game on paper should be closer, but it might not because Wentz might die.
I mean, hey, wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. Tom, what do you think?
So that was going to be my pick for the most interesting game, because it really is like a prove-it game for Wentz, because it's about time. Like, he now has a good offensive line. He now has better wide receivers than he did in Philly. The excuses are going to start running out for him. But if I had to pick a game that's not as exciting, that's the second closest game, I'd pick Chiefs Ravens, just because I feel like we get this game. It's always a prime time. It's either Monday Night Football or it takes the Sunday 8 o'clock window. And it just never lives up to the hype. Like, it's about time for Lamar to win a game against Mahomes, because I don't think he's ever done it. Tony has huge questions on Lamar. And after the performance he had against the Raiders, like, I'm starting to agree with Tony, because that's kind of the perfect defense for Lamar to play well against. So Chiefs Ravens will be the most interesting, because I want to see Lamar. Like, it's about time we see something from Lamar, and he can kind of prove it to me by beating the Chiefs, or at least keeping it close to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I want to see Lamar the quarterback, not Lamar the running back.
Yes.
You're going to get Lamar the running back.
That's why I don't like Lamar, because I think he's overhyped. He's not actually that good of a quarterback. He's just a glorified running back.
He's great for fantasy football. Like, that's what it comes
That is true.
Very good.
All those guys that are great for fantasy football, though, they become like, people think they're great quarterbacks just because they're great for fantasy.
And he just isn't.
Yeah, he's not. Mitch, what do you think?
I'm interested in the Vikings Cardinals this week. I mean, the Vikings kind of had a bad game last week. They should have easily beat the Bengals. And Kyler Murray, it seems like he's just going like this. Like Kyler Murray is my early MVP candidate. Like I think if he could continue what he did in week 1 throughout the whole season, he's the MVP of the league. Like he played phenomenal. And he was making some like absurd passes, some Patrick Mahomes like passes, like off his back foot, leaning back. He looked like a basketball player. So I'm really interested to see how that story continues and to see if the Vikings can pick up where they left off last season. I thought they had a good offense, but obviously they didn't have too good of a week 1 against the Bengals. So
yeah, definitely a lot of great games on the slate this week. But thanks for joining me, guys. That was a fun one. So that was Tony Nemetti, Tom Ziller. It's Willer. I got to get the W. These guys run Touchdown Rundown podcast, also doing some writing for the Sports 2.0 network, so check that out. And that was Mitch Martin, my man. Go Red Sox. Blue Jays suck. But thanks for joining me, guys. This was a blast.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Vladdy for MVP.
What? Vladdy for MVP? I hope it's Shohei, but I hope.
Yeah.
But we'll save the baseball talk for another time. Guys, if you're going to bet this weekend on the games, bet on baseball, do it with DraftKings. Deposit match up to $1,000. Links in the description below. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode of NFL Kickoff.